All right, let's just jump right in. We all have this picture in our heads, right, of how the brain works, the one we kind of learned in school. But what if that picture isn't just a little off? What if it's completely, fundamentally wrong? Well, today we're going to tear up that old blueprint and look at the real one. And trust me, it's way stranger and honestly way more incredible than you'd think.
It all starts with this super simple, almost kind of boring fact from a key scientific paper. It just says the nervous system consists of neurons and glial cells. Okay, great. Neurons, we've all heard of those. They're the superstars. But then there are these glial cells.
And right away, that should make you ask a huge question, right? If there are two main players in this story, how can we only ever talk about one of them? Why do neurons get all the glory? This is the first thread we pull, and you're going to see the whole thing start to unravel.
Okay, so section 1, the brain's old story. Before we get to the new stuff, we've got to talk about the old story, the one we all think we know.
You know the one I'm talking about. The brain is this giant biological telephone network. Neurons are the wires, the signals zip back and forth, thoughts and memories are just the connections between them. It's simple, it makes sense, and for a really long time, it was pretty much the only story in town.
All right, section 2, meet the unsung heroes. And here's where the plot really thickens. It's time to finally meet the brain's forgotten half, the glial cells. And let me tell you, they are not just background characters, they are co-stars.
So for decades, the story was that these glial cells were just filler, like packing peanuts for the important stuff. The myth was that neurons outnumbered them 10 to 1. But get this, recent science, like the stuff we're looking at today, has totally flipped that on its head. The real ratio? It's closer to 1 to 1. 1 to 1! That means for every neuron, there's a glial cell right there with it. So, what in the world are all of them doing?
Well, it turns out they're doing pretty much everything. You've got astrocytes, think of them as mission control and the power grid, managing blood flow, feeding the neurons, and even helping shape their connections. Then you've got oligodendrocytes. These are the high-speed cable installers, wrapping the neurons' wires to make signals travel insanely fast. And the microglia, they're the janitors and the security staff, cleaning up all the junk and fighting off any invaders. This isn't a support crew, it's the entire infrastructure.
So the big takeaway here is that these cells are anything but passive. They're not just glue holding things in place. They are the active managers of the whole system. They're constantly shaping it, tuning it, maintaining it. Honestly, without the glia, the neurons wouldn't stand a chance.
Okay, so that's a huge revelation right there. But believe it or not, that's only half the story. The revolution doesn't stop with glia. It turns out our picture of the neuron itself was also way too simple. We've got to look inside the neuron. Section 3, the neuron's inner universe. So look at this. On the left, that's the old model. Signal in, signal out. Simple, like a light switch. But on the right, that's reality. The neuron isn't a simple wire, it's like a bustling city. It's getting info from all over the place, managing its own energy, building its own parts, it's making complex decisions all on its own. The real story isn't just the connection, it's the insane amount of stuff happening inside the cell. And this leads to this really cool new idea, the horizontal-vertical model. Now the horizontal part, that's the network we already knew about, right? How one neuron connects to all the others. But the vertical part, that's the game changer. That's the neuron's own deep internal processing system. It's this whole world of computation happening inside the neuron before it ever decides to fire a signal.
And this diagram shows perfectly what that vertical processing actually does. When a signal comes in, the neuron has a choice to make. Is this just some random everyday chatter? Okay, then it uses the regulation loop. Makes a quick, temporary adjustment, no big deal. But if that signal is strong or important or new, bam, it can trigger the memory loop, sending a message all the way down to its core, to its nucleus, to make permanent physical changes. The neuron itself decides what's worth remembering.
So, let's connect the dots here. A neuron has this deep internal life. It makes its own decisions, and when you put those two things together, you end up with something completely mind-blowing. Section 4, a self-programming machine. They call this internal process vertical computation, and it just means that before a neuron ever passes a signal along, it does its own processing. It filters the signal, it combines it with other info, it interprets what it means based on everything it's experienced before. It's not just reacting, it's thinking.
I mean, check out this quote from one of the key papers. It says it perfectly. We present the neuron as a self-programming device rather than passively determined by ongoing input. Think about that. Not a passive domino, a self-programming device. Its own experiences literally rewrite its code for the future.
Here's a great way to think about it. You've got a naive neuron, maybe in a baby's brain. It starts with a pretty generic default program. It's open to everything, so it imprints new experiences really easily. But a mature neuron? It's learned from experience. It's developed its own specific custom program, and it uses that program to filter every single new signal that comes in.
And the result of that is just profound. It means not every little thing leaves a trace. Not every signal creates a memory. The brain isn't just a sponge soaking it all up. The very cells that make up our brain learn what's important, and, maybe even more critically, they learn what to ignore. It's a system that's built to be efficient.
So, let's pull all these pieces together. Let's throw out that old blueprint and look at the new one. Section 5. The new brain blueprint. What does it actually look like?
Okay, here are the 3 big ideas, the pillars of this new model. 1. The brain is not a neural network. It's an ecosystem of neurons and glia working together. 2. Glia aren't the passive support crew. They are the active managers of that whole ecosystem. And 3, and this is the big one, every single neuron is not a simple switch. It's its own complex programmable computer.
This table just lays it all out, side by side, the old model versus the new model. The key players? It's not just neurons anymore. It's neurons and glia. Glia's role? It goes from passive glue to active manager. The neuron's role? From a dumb switch to a complex computer. And maybe the craziest part? Where is memory stored? Not just in the connections between the cells, but also inside each and every neuron in its own personal programming.
So why should you care about any of this? I mean, this is not just some abstract science experiment. Understanding that glia are active players could completely change how we fight diseases like Alzheimer's or MS. It gives us brand new targets for medicine. And for technology? Thinking of a neuron as a self-programming computer, well, that gives us a whole new blueprint for building the next wave of truly intelligent AI.
Which leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending question to chew on. We used to think the brain was like a big telephone network. But if every single one of its 86 billion neurons is actually its own tiny computer, and they're all talking to each other and they're all managed by this vast crew of glial cells, what kind of network is that? What is a system like that truly capable of?